Good afternoon, boys and girls. This is Miss D, and we are about to read the second story in the series of Happy Town. But this one is called Happy Town, the and of course we have our same awesome illustrator, Miss Brie LaShelle. And it is available on Amazon. So go on Amazon and get your parents' permission, of course, and get your copy of Happy Town, the Playground Secret. Let's begin. The school year was off to a great start. Sam and all of his friends were happy again. Sam had proven that it was okay to just have a bad day. But lately, Sam seemed to be hiding a secret. He didn't want to play at recess. In fact, Sam didn't even want to go on the playground. This was very odd because Sam's favorite parts of the day were recess and lunchtime. Something was not right, and Sam's friends had to get to the bottom of it. Weeks went by, and Sam was not budging. He would find any excuse to not go on the playground. He would do extra credit work. He would clean the dry erase board for Mrs. D. He would even stay in the cafeteria and help to wipe down the tables. Sam would do anything if it meant he did not have to go outside at recess time, even if it meant getting into trouble with Principal Brown. It seemed like Sam was trying to avoid something big, but what could it be? Who could it be? Was Sam afraid of something or someone? At first, it just seemed like Sam wanted to be extra helpful and focus on his schoolwork rather than playtime. But slowly, it was getting worse and worse. Well, the weeks went by and Sam did not change. Whatever he was avoiding was not going away anytime soon. Sam was hiding a secret that he couldn't even share with his best friends. So he just kept quiet. The annual Happy Town Elementary Field Day was approaching, and this was a day that the entire school was required to participate in outdoor activities. These activities would go toward the end of the year grade. Hey, Sam, yelled Jewel. What activities are you signing up for? Oh, I'm not going to be involved in those activities, said Sam. What? Not involved? Sam had it all planned out. He would fake being sick on field day. If he was sick, then no one would expect him to be at school, and therefore no one would look for him to participate in field day. It was the perfect plan, or was it? Sam had forgotten how strict his mom was about school. She was also a nurse. She had this way of telling if a person was sick or not. Sam thought she was a magician or even a secret witch. Well, the big day was only a day away. Every teacher at Happy Town Elementary was preparing for field day and selecting volunteer parents for this awesome event. Principal Brown had ordered all the food. He was always so excited about this day. He would order hot dogs, funnel cakes, ice cream, nacho cheese, chips, popcorn, and so much more. Principal Brown went all out for this huge event, and he wanted everyone else to get as excited as he was. Mrs. D was over the planning committee, and she begins her planning at the beginning of the school year. She had every spot assigned except one. She still needed someone to be over the dunk tank. A light bulb popped on in her head. She had the perfect person. Sam. Sam was the missing piece. Sam would be the perfect person to be commander of the dunk tank. But would he be willing to accept the job? The school day was about to end, and Mrs. D had asked Sam to remain in class after the bell rang. Sam couldn't imagine what Mrs. D wanted with him. All kinds of scary thoughts were running through his head. He knew that he had not done anything wrong. He failed a math test. After all, math was his worst subject. Well, the bell had rung and the class hurried out. Sam just sat quietly waiting for Mrs. D to let him know what the problem was. Mrs. D asked if Sam would be the dunk tank master. He would oversee taking tickets and manning the dunk tank. Sam just stood there with a blank look on his face. Sam, are you okay? Asked Mrs. D. Sam was afraid that if he had said anything, that he would be called a snitch. He just said that he didn't if he could accept the job because he didn't think he could accept the job because if he did, he might be too busy with chores at home and may not be able to make it to field day. The Mrs. D had a way of getting answers out of children. She had a plan. Since Sam was so hesitant about taking on the job, she decided to let Sam's mom know ahead of time that she had asked Sam to be the dunk tank master. She knew that his mom would be thrilled, especially since she had signed up to help chaperone the entire day. Mrs. D told Sam to think hard about it and let her know. In the meantime, Sam's mom had a sign made for Sam that said congratulations on the new job. Uh-oh. Sam was screwed at school and at home. He would not be able to fake sick because his mom already knew that he had been asked to do the job. Sam decided to make it into school early the next day to have a meeting with Mrs. D. She always had an open door policy. She loved for her children to feel free to speak with her about anything. Hi, Sam, said Mrs. D. I am so excited to see you. Have you decided to say yes to my offer? Sam just stood in silence. Sam, is something wrong? Asked Mrs. D. You know that you can always talk to me about anything. Sam begins to slump down with tears in his eyes. He felt so ashamed because he was afraid of another person, a bully. Well, there's a secret that I have been keeping about the playground, said Sam. There's this big kid named Billy McGruff, and he's been picking on me and taking my money each day as well as my lunch, said Sam. I don't know what to do. He said if I told anyone, he would hurt you and my mom. Sam just started crying uncontrollably. Oh my, said Mrs. D. Sam, please don't cry. You have done the right thing by coming to me. Mrs. D had just the plan to stop a bully in his tracks, and the dunk tank would be the perfect event. The big day had arrived. Everyone was in their places, and Sam was so afraid of what could happen with Billy McGruff. Sam was in position as dunk master. All of his friends had come through the line and enjoyed being dunked. Next in line was mean Billy McGruff. Uh-oh. He just gave Sam the mean eye. He even dared Sam to dunk him. He told Sam that if he pushed the dunk tank button, then he could say goodbye to his favorite teacher, Mrs. D, and to his mom. Sam just froze for a minute until Mrs. D made eye contact with Sam. She gave him the okay to push the button. Sam seemed to have a feeling of relief. In fact, he had a feeling of approval. It was like he could face his giant. But should he do it or not? It was like a clock went off inside of his head. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bam! Sam gave the bully one last look and slammed the button so hard the bully fell with the biggest splash that anyone had ever seen. Everyone started laughing at the bully. Ha 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 ha, laughed all of the children. Oh my gosh, Sam got the bully. Even adults were wondering what was going on. Sam didn't know what was going to happen next. He just knew that Billy was going to punch him and hurt Mrs. D and his mom. But that didn't happen at all. As soon as Billy was dried off, he came up to Sam and apologized for being so mean to him. He had told him that no one had ever stood up to him the way Sam did and asked Sam if they could be friends. From that day forward, Billy was a part of Sam's group of friends. The playground secret was solved. Sam was back to normal. Sam showed that facing your fears and standing up to a giant could turn out to be a good thing. The end. The end, boys and girls. I hope you enjoyed that second story in the series of Happy Town, The Playground Secret. And remember, bullies don't always win. Stand up to your bully or your giant, and you will win. All right, my friends, this has been Mrs. D. I hope you enjoyed that story. You can go on Amazon and purchase your copy of The Playground Secret, Happy Town, The Playground Secret, and also the other Happy Town, Sam Has a Bad Day. Have a good day, boys and girls.